Great news! Now your account has a level, and you get free daily cases.
Hello everyone. With Hunt Showdown 1896, we also got the engine update to CryEngine 5.11. Today, we will take a look at the new settings, but also the improvements. I will compare all graphics options, then show you some general settings that you should use, and at the end of the video, you will see the best settings to get the biggest PvP advantage. If you like this video, please subscribe. It would mean a lot. Without any waiting, let's get straight into it. So, let's go to graphic settings, and let's start from top to bottom. Resolution, of course you wanna select your native resolution, what your monitor supports. For window mode, for the best performance, I recommend full screen, but if you like to alt upload, you can probably put borderless, that's the second best option. The preferred main monitor, well you wanna choose the main monitor you game on. Then there is a VSync option. Most people gonna have it off, but if you use VSync, well you know, there is an option behind it. If you enable it, it enables you NVIDIA Reflex. This option reduces system latency, which makes the game react faster to your inputs. But what if you wanna use NVIDIA Reflex, but you don't wanna use VSync? Well, you actually can. At the moment, you can just enable VSync, set your NVIDIA Reflex what you want it to be, and then you disable VSync, and NVIDIA Reflex will stay active in the background. Not sure if it's supposed to work like this, but it works. There is a YouTube video proving that, but you can also see it in the game config file. Then we got max FPS settings. Obviously you should set this to your monitor refresh rate, because sometimes Hunt can get power hungry and your FPS can go to hundreds for no reason in menu, and it takes your GPU performance. I have my FPS locked through NVIDIA app, so I have it on 9000 here. Near depth of field. As you can see on this picture, it gives you depth of field when using weapons, which is only preference. It doesn't really do anything for your performance or PvP advantage. I prefer to have it off for a clean vision of your arms. Motion blur, well this one is no-brainer, most people gonna have it off. Gamma is also personal choice, so set it what you want to. Don't make the game too bright, don't make it too dark, just set it what you want to. If your monitor supports HDR, you can use it here. They basically enhance your colors, giving you the wider spectrum of colors that can be displayed in-game. Video RAM usage target. Here you select how much VRAM does Hunt take from your GPU. For the best performance, I recommend having it on 90. But that could also cause some issues, so the safest option would be 80 here. Try it out on 90, and if you see some performance issues, put it on 80. Then we have a super resolution settings, which is basically DLSS and AMD FSR. What it does is that it renders the frames at lower resolution, and then it uses AI to upscale it. If you have NVIDIA GPU, you should use DLSS, and if you have AMD GPU, you should use FSR. This could greatly boost their FPS at a visual cost. I can only recommend you to play with this yourself, because you need to find out what's the best for your PC. But in general, if you can, have it off, because that's the best for visual clarity. Super resolution is the last option you should adjust after you find your correct settings. Now let's get to the interesting ones, the graphics settings. One thing to mention, with the CryEngine 5.11, Crytek added very high and ultra settings, but for the sake of this video I'm not gonna showcase the ultra settings, because they are not really meant to be played. It's mainly meant to be showcased for the new engine and how far can the CryEngine get, but also as a benchmark. The default presets are pretty bad because there is some options that you should definitely change no matter what settings you play. So set this to custom so you can adjust it. Let's start with object quality settings. These settings adjust the cooling distance for objects at distance. It no longer affects how far do the objects render, there is a separate option for it now, but it adjusts the overall model for the object. All games use this. The further you are, the lower resolution model is displayed, and here you can change that. Notice that the render distance stays the same, but the higher the settings, the higher quality the object in distance. Performance wise, this settings is kinda in the medium or highs, but you can set it to what looks best for you. Then we have a texture quality. It is what it says, it adjusts the overall texture for all objects. This affects the resolution of hunters, walls, floor, but even your weapon skins and first-person models. You can see there are big noticeable differences, and for one specific reason, I would recommend it to keep it on medium no matter what PC you have. Unless you have very bad PC, sure put it on low, but I would put it on medium just because of the skins rendered properly. On low, the skins are very blurry, but on medium, it's exactly the same as if you play medium or very high. Next one, we got texture filtering. This option improves the appearance of textures viewed at the angle, and it gives them more depth. It's very noticeable on the ground or brick walls, for example. Having more depth into the textures really feels nice, and it's not much performance heavy, so I would recommend having it on 16. The next option we got is anti-aliasing, and keep in mind you won't see this option if you use super resolution. If you have it on, this disappears. This setting mainly affects the pixelation around objects. The higher the settings, the smoother they are. But in my opinion there is only two correct options out of these four you should use. Either the 1x option or the 2tx option. 1x is very pixelated, but if you're looking for PvP advantage, that is the one you wanna use. Because it's pixelated, it makes it easier to look through bushes and through cracks. You can easier see movement. 1tx is in between. The 2tx option makes everything very smooth, but also kinda blurry, but visually it looks better. Next one is a lighting quality, and this one is big. As you can see, there is no low option, which got removed with the new engine update, and let me tell you why this is a problem. There is an issue with the medium lighting quality settings that's been in the game since at least 2019. Yes, even with the old engine. Playing lighting quality on medium gives all vegetation this weird noise effect. It might be hard to notice, maybe because of the video compression, but try it yourself. Put your lighting on medium, look at the bushes, look at the grass, and then compare it with lighting on high. This weird flickering, noisy effect is gonna be removed with the high settings. And considering it's the lowest option, I feel like most people use this option, and they might not even know why this happens. On the other hand, lighting quality is the best for visibility with the light shafts. The higher the settings, the brighter the sun. And this makes it worse to see through the gaps or against the sun. So, what do you choose? A very annoying graphical error, or being able to see against the sun a bit better? Next one is global illumination, and if you couldn't see anything in dark areas before, this one will change everything. Global illumination, or SWOG, how they call it in the CryEngine, basically changes how many times does the light bounce. And of course, the more times the light can bounce, the better the occlusion of the light. You can see the huge jump from low to medium settings, but then from medium to high and very high, there is not a big difference. This setting is very performance heavy, so I wouldn't go above medium, but it's great to have for visibility. Then we have shadow quality and shadow filtering settings. As you can see, those settings go hand in hand together, changing at the same time to the same value, but they do different things. Shadow quality affects the resolution and the distance of shadows, and shadow filtering takes care of the smoothing out of the shadows. I would recommend you to keep them both at the same value if you're gonna play it, unless you like very sharp shadows, then you can go shadow quality on high and shadow filtering on low, which causes shadow to be extremely sharp. Of course, it's not real life accurate, but I kinda like it. Next is effect quality. This one affects the light flares, sun shafts, depth of field, and motion blur effects. To be honest, this one is barely noticeable, you don't really notice many different things on these pictures. It can make lamps look better, it can make flares look better, but I wouldn't expect much difference. Next one we got post-process quality, and this one is still a mystery to me, because No matter what, I couldn't see any difference in my screenshots I took. So let me know if you see difference, because this is supposed to change the quality of bloom and depth of field effects. Still, I see no difference. Let's move to particle quality. This option adds more particles and makes them prettier. So for example clues, they will glow way more. There's gonna be more particles for dynamite explosions, frag bomb explosions, for dynamite fuse and all that. Next one is another new option, water quality. This one is simple, it changes the quality of water. You see, there is quite a big difference with each setting, but the interesting thing is that on the Mamoon's Gulch, the clear water, on low settings, they have very jagged edges, and on medium and higher, it's kinda better. So I would recommend playing at least medium settings for water quality, just to avoid this very high pixelation. Fog quality is another new option, and it pretty much changes how thick is the fog, and what's the quality of it. Overall, the higher the settings, the fog is thicker, so personally I would keep this on low. Now we got the free view distance settings, and they change how far does stuff render. View distance ratio changes the render distance of objects like buildings, windows, AI, lootable stuff, but player distance shouldn't be affected by this. For the lights, it affects render distance of light sources. So for example electric lamps, normal lamps, lantern grunts, and all that. And view distance vegetation, well, that affects the render distance of bushes, trees, and all that stuff. Obviously, most people gonna keep these settings at the lowest. And then there is performance stats. Basically, it displays your FPS and ping, and the higher you go, the more stats you're gonna see. Last option is GPU tessellation, and with this on or off, it honestly doesn't make any difference. Not for visual and not for performance. So in general, I would recommend to just have it off. Most of the other settings are just personal preference, but there is a few settings that everyone should change in my opinion. The first one is shoulder aim field of view. I would set this to default, because if it's in default, there is no extra zoom every time you hip fire. Sure, some people may like it to get extra zoom when I hip fire, but in general, you get the zoom every time you sprint, every time you ADS. Without it, it looks way smoother in my opinion. Next option you should change is at the bottom of HUD settings. Highlight interactable objects. You should put this at exclude doors and windows, and this will remove the white outline around doors and windows, making it easier to crack peek. Because when it's blinking, it's kinda annoying to aim through. But if you put exclude, well, there is no blinking anymore for the doors and the windows. Also, you can try to play none, but that removes even teammates' outlines. But honestly, it might even boost their FPS, so it's worth a try. Another option you should change is auto move and auto interact. Auto move, well, if you press W 3 times on your keyboard, you are automatically sprinting. This will not really provide you any advantage, but it's just nice to have when you are bored running across.
Entropia Universe is a real cash economy MMO, released in 2003 where the in-game currency
the map. And auto interact on, this basically works as if you are spamming F, so as soon as you can interact with something, it's gonna interact with it. This is especially great for picking up arrows from walls or around you, or just to open doors as fast as you can. It's also great for dauntlessing because you don't have to spam F, you can just hold it, and when it gets close, it just gets dauntlessed automatically. The last two options just to open doors as fast as you can. It's also great for dauntlessing because you don't have to spam F, you can just hold it, and when it gets close, it just gets dauntlessed automatically. The last two options I would recommend you to change it. Interesting.
Ah, thank you.
Is in mouse and keyboard bindings. First, definitely separate your vault and jump button. This is gonna make it way easier to vault when you want, but it also allows you to get to certain areas easier. And then at the bottom, you should definitely separate your interact buttons. So we will interact with F, but there is a separate button for stopping the bandage, like bleeding, or stopping the burning. This could be very useful. Let's say you are on fire and you wanna pick up medkit. Well, if you are burning, it doesn't let you. But with this separate button, you can actually do it. So, what are the settings for the biggest PvP advantage? To reduce your system latency, you should definitely use NVIDIA Reflex. So, enable VSync, set it on enable or boost, and then turn off VSync. This will stay active. Then object quality on low, because you don't really need the high quality objects in distance. And then texture quality on medium, because I feel like hunters that render properly are better to see, and the game looks so much better. Texture quality on 1x for smoother roads, making it easier to see. Anti-aliasing on 1x to have the game sharp and being able to see through bushes and cracks. Lighting quality on high. Yes, this is a bit worse visibility than medium, but with the high settings you eliminate the noise effect. And I feel like the noise effect could be very distracting, so you could easily miss seeing hunters. Global illumination, definitely medium. If you saw the comparison, you see how big the difference it makes. Then all these settings you can put on low, but water quality I would recommend medium, just to avoid the pixelation around objects when looking through the water. And the rest of the settings low. This is what I believe is the best PvP settings, but I still make the game look okay with the texture quality on medium. It's not as bad as you would think. So those are the settings. They give good PvP advantage, they are not that hard to run, and they also make the game look nice. Of course, you can adjust this as much as you want, you can actually do it. So, what are the settings for the biggest PvP advantage? To reduce your system latency, you should definitely use NVIDIA Reflex. So, enable VSync, set it on enable or boost, and then turn off VSync. This will stay active. Then object quality on low, because you don't really need the high quality objects in distance. And then texture quality on medium, because I feel like hunters that render properly are better to see, and the game looks so much better. Texture quality on 1x for smoother roads, making it easier to see. Anti-aliasing on 1x to have the game sharp and being able to see through bushes and cracks. Lighting quality on high. Yes, this is a bit worse visibility than medium, but with the high settings you eliminate the noise effect. And I feel like the noise effect could be very distracting, so you could easily miss seeing hunters. Global illumination, definitely medium. If you saw the comparison, you see how big the difference it makes. Then all these settings you can put on low, but water quality I would recommend medium, just to avoid the pixelation around objects when looking through the water. And the rest of the settings low. This is what I believe is the best PvP settings, but I still make the game look okay with the texture quality on medium. It's not as bad as you would think. So those are the settings. They give good PvP advantage, they are not that hard to run, and they also make the game look nice. Of course, you can adjust this as much as you want, you can also use super resolution. I would appreciate if you like and subscribe, because this video took tons of effort, and it was very fun to make because I discovered so much stuff for myself. I'll see you in the next one.